Hello everyone and welcome back to the Scots Scheme with Macalester College head football coach Coach Jennison. The Scots Scheme is a weekly program that gives you, the fans, the opportunity to ask the Macalester coach questions about the Scots, football or sports in general, or just seek the coach's wisdom about life events that are going on. In this week's program, the coach talks to us about the decisive victory over Grinnell last weekend. He shares with us his enthusiasm about having two players that are statistically ranked in the top 5 in the Division III rankings. And Jacob Jones joins the program. So let's get right to the Scots Scheme. So let's welcome back Macalester College head football coach Coach Jennison. Coach, let's first of all begin with your team updates.
Team updates. We had a nice win last weekend against Grinnell, 34-0. We stayed relatively healthy during that game, and we're looking forward to a big game this weekend. We got Ripon coming up, and they will provide a big challenge for us. The 2 years we've been in the Midwest Conference, we have the worst plus minus, if you will, against Ripon of any team in the Midwest Conference. So they pose a big challenge for us, and I think our players know that. We've had a good week of practice this week, and we're excited to get on the road and take on a real quality opponent. They're very well coached. They're unique with some of the things they do, and again, they pose a big challenge. So with any challenge, there's great opportunity, and we're certainly excited for it. But in terms of team updates, usually we talk about injuries, but we're actually pretty healthy now. I mentioned Luke Bishop last week, who hurt his knee in practice, and Luke's going to have surgery here. I believe it's next week, late next week. But overall, we're fairly healthy. I know Forrest Caro has been having some knee issues as well, which is really tough to see because he's been such a hard worker in his 2 years here, and he's fighting through some things with the knee right now. But and Kerrigan Miller is coming along well with his knee. We're excited about that, and hopefully that we'll get him back. Hopefully in 1 to 3 weeks, I'm hopeful of. So we'll see what happens. Other than that, I'm not looking at any injury reports. I'm probably missing somebody, but overall, relative to being in the fifth going into the 5th game of the season, we're pretty healthy.
You talked about the big victory over Grinnell this past weekend. Was there anything about that victory that really stood out for you?
You're going to think I'm nuts, Rob, and all coaches are a bunch of whack jobs, so I'm no different than anybody else. But, we didn't really play our best, and, that was something that we talked about at halftime and whatnot. We just didn't execute as well as we think we should have. We made mistakes, and give Grinnell the credit too. I mean, they had good play calls at certain times, and their players executed at certain times, and they caught us in a few things. But overall, we didn't play as well as I feel we can. So that's kind of what stood out to me, in that we didn't play our best, and to me, I'm not really satisfied with that, because my job is to make sure that we are playing our best, that we're getting the most that we can out of each young man in our program, the most out of our offense, our defense, our special teams, and that's my job. So I don't know, maybe I'm being too hard on our players. I don't think I am. I think they know I'm honest with them, and I really believe that we didn't play our best football, and so obviously we're working on that and getting better, and hopefully we'll be a more consistent team. But with that being said, we still did win 34-0, so we were certainly happy about that.
When you're nuts and you're a genius, you're eccentric. So that's
the term. I can guarantee you I am not eccentric.
Nick Eggersdorf had 6 sacks through the first 4 games over the season. How is he becoming such a difference maker for you?
Nick is very explosive. He holds one of the top vertical jumps on our team, maybe the top, actually, now that I think about it. So he's very explosive. He's got a great first step. He's very athletic and fast as a defensive lineman, so he can chase people down. When he gets off a block, he can really run and chase people down, and that's led to 6 sacks. We expected this out of him. We really felt as though he has the ability to play at a very high level. I didn't know this. One of our players told us the other day. He was looking up stats and saw that Nick was actually ranked 5th in the country for sacks right now, with 6 overall, which is really neat. He's on top of the Midwest Conference, leading the Midwest Conference, which I think is great. But Nick is a he's worked really hard, and he's a very positive young man. He prepares well. He's always at practice every day. He's always working hard in practice, and I think that he's earned this type of success, and I'm hopeful that it will continue for him. I'm certainly happy to see it for him.
As a whole, the defense allowed just 252 yards against Grinnell. What about the scheme or the plan did you see that allowed for such success?
Again, we didn't feel like we played as well at times. I know that Grinnell was able to pick up a lot of first downs on us, and again, to their credit, we weren't as aggressive against them as we have been in other weeks. We felt by sitting back, playing in our zone coverages, we would be better served as opposed to blitzing and playing man coverage, and that. While I think that was the right plan, because basically we tested the quarterback to throw against our zone coverage, and he actually did really well against that. But with that being said, we need to tighten some things up with those zone coverages. So, we were successful. We held them out of the end zone, but we felt that we gave them too much yardage and allowed them to have too many first downs. Part of that, our special teams played really well, and we had pretty good field position most day. We never really gave them a short field, which is another part of the equation. So even though they were able to rack up some yards, we played well in the kicking game, and we played well when we had to defensively to hold them out of the end zone. So that was good. The fact that obviously we kept them out of the end zone, but we certainly need to tighten some things up.
Cody Petrich had another impressive outing for you. He looks really like he's getting comfortable in this game.
Yeah, I think he is. And, you like to think that the more game experience that he has, the more comfortable he's going to be and the more successful he'll be. He's really done a nice job for us. And I think that his best days are still ahead of him. I think he's just scratched the surface with what he can do. I mean, he's got a presence back there in the pocket. He's a tall young man, but being about 6'2", 6'3", he's got a strong arm and a quick release, and he's athletic enough to make plays with his feet as well. So he poses a real problem back there, and he's really, I think the word you use, Rob, is really good. Comfortable. He's really finding himself comfortable back there, leading the offense and running our offense. And again, I think that he's only going to continue to get better as he continues to get more experience. So we've been extremely pleased with him, and he's an outstanding young man. I'm really proud of him and what he's done this season on the football field. And I know that our players and the team really think highly of him. He's a pretty quiet guy. He's not, he doesn't say a whole lot at a lot of times, but and so I know that everybody on the team really enjoys Cody. They really like him, and I think he's getting more comfortable in that leadership role of the offense. So yeah, really just happy for him and with his performance thus far.
Freshman Johnny Bice got a little time on the offense this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
What were you looking for out of him, and did you see that?
Just looking for him to execute the offense and to make decisions out there that whatever the defense gives him. We put our quarterbacks in a position where they have to make decisions, and what we expect is that they're making the right decisions, not that they're throwing a touchdown pass in his case, or throwing, he completed 2 passes, one was for a touchdown. But what we want him to make the right decisions, whether he should, give the ball or keep it on a run play, or, maybe that he should hit a certain receiver based on the coverage that we give him. And he did a really good job of that. That touchdown pass to Reese Bresson was a lot of fun. I know that the upperclassmen on our team, the guys that play more on Saturdays, were just really excited to see Johnny throw that to Reese and him to get a touchdown with it. It was a pretty fun celebration on the sidelines with that one, and really nice to see for both Johnny and Reese.
You play Ripon this weekend. You talked a little bit about the fact that they have a unique offense. What kind of challenges does that offense present to you?
Well, to me, it's all mental toughness. It's about doing your assignment, and I'm speaking really defensively, but I think this can be equated to offense as well. Mental toughness in doing your assignment every single play. I mean, as a defensive lineman, you're going to line up and you're going to have to tackle that fullback over and over and over and over again for about 3 hours long, and it's going to get tiring, it's going to get boring, and it's going to be very physical, but you have to be mentally strong enough to do that, because the team needs you to do that. And as a a linebacker or defensive end, you might be a quarterback player, and your job is to tackle that quarterback every single time he comes out, and you have to be willing to do that, and focused enough to not cheat and start trying to get extra tackles, or you think the ball goes one way and it doesn't, and then all of a sudden you gave up your area of responsibility. So to me, it's all about mental toughness and understanding that we know what Rippon's going to do. They're gonna run the ball and pound with their option attack, and then try to catch you off balance and throw the ball as well, which they're pretty effective at doing. But we just need to be mentally strong and focus on what we control, which is doing our job. And I really believe that that's what it comes down to. It's a mentality and a toughness within that mentality.
As you mentioned, this isn't a team that really throws the ball a lot, but do you expect them to throw more against you, and how do you prepare for that?
I go back to my days at lacrosse in college when we were playing against River Falls, and River Falls was one of the top offenses in America. They rushed for, I swear, I thought it was like 400 yards a game. I'm probably wrong about that, but I know that they were always one of the top teams in the country in terms of rushing, and they would throw the ball, honestly, like once, twice a game, some games maybe 5 times, and Ripon throws it more than that. So when you say they don't throw the ball a lot, I actually think that they do for the type of offense that they are. So yeah, we expect them to throw at times. I think my philosophy is if you're focused on stopping their passing game, you're going to get gashed in the run game, and we need to stop the run first. So that's certainly our mentality. We have a lot of trust in our defensive backs to make plays back there if they do decide to pass. But we first have to focus on the run. Otherwise, again, it's going to be a long day with them running the football.
Well, let us head to our fan questions this week. We first of all begin with Gene from Fargo, who says, "Tell the truth, Coach.
Tell the truth." Okay.
Did you ever envision a day where you would have a receiver who was third in the country in touchdown receptions?
No. That's the truth. I never would have thought that. Quite honestly, I don't think about those things. I don't look into statistics. I never look at our stats. For us, I know that probably hurts our players because there's years. I remember years in the past when it's come time for all conference awards, and some of our players don't have the same statistics as other people in the conference because some games, if we're up by a few touchdowns, we're getting other people in there. We're not padding the stats, and we're letting other people play, which I think is more important for our team than somebody racking up an extra touchdown or an extra 50 yards or whatever. So quite honestly, I never look at statistics, and the only reason I knew about this was because of your question, Gene from Fargo. So I had no idea that Alec Beatty was third in the country in touchdown receptions, which is awesome. I think it's great. But again, until I saw your question, I had no idea. And the only reason that we talked about Nick Eggersdorf earlier leading the conference in sacks and being 5th nationally. It's because Nick and I were having a conversation the other day. He was doing his work study out in the hallway just outside of my office, and was doing some studying or whatnot, and as he's checking IDs of people that come into our building. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, Nick, you got 6 sacks," because you keep bringing it to my attention. I didn't even know he had 6 sacks, but Rob keeps telling me that, wow, Nick Eggersdorf is doing great. I'm like, yeah, he's doing great, and you keep mentioning the statistics again. I don't really focus on that. And I asked Nick, I said, "So where do you stack up in the conference rankings in terms of sacks?" And he said, "I don't know." He never looks at that sort of thing. Well, Jacob Jones was sitting right there, so Jacob looked it up. And Jacob saw that he's the conference leader in sacks, and Jacob then also looked up the NCAA statistics and found that Nick was tied for 5th in the country in terms of sacks right now. So again, this is not something that our coaching staff usually pays attention to. I would say we never pay attention to it. It's just something that has happened. So the truth, Gene from Fargo, is that I would have never thought that because I don't think of statistics. It doesn't really matter to me. The only statistic that matters to me is whether we win or lose. That's really all I care about. So no, I would have envisioned that, but I think it's pretty cool that it is, and I'm not surprised. Alec is a tremendous talent. I think you're going to be hard-pressed to find honestly, I think he's one of the top receivers in the country. I think he's that special, and he's just getting comfortable. I mean, this is his first full year playing wide receiver, and look at what he's doing. He's a weapon out there, and he's a great football player. He's a great young man. He's going to be very successful in life because of his work ethic and his attitude and how he communicates with people. He's outstanding in every way. He's exceptional in every way, and he's certainly exceptional on the football field. And we expect more good things to happen on the field with him. I just hope we can continue to get him the football.
So if there's a Division III fantasy football, Alec Beatty.
Yeah, definitely.
That's your guy.
Definitely.
Mary from St. Paul would like to know, one thing I really like in watching your games is that there seems to be no unfair play by any of the teams I've seen. All the games seem to be played with great sportsmanship. Is that your assessment as well? And do you find that this is a product of the Division III level athletics in general?
You know, it's hard for me to answer that because I don't really know. All I see are really Division III football games. I don't watch other levels, and I don't really watch many pro football games. I know that our games are physical. I know they're played at a fast level, and people are hitting very hard. And there are some things that I see on the sidelines that you probably don't see up in the stands. Because it is a physical game and it's an emotional game. But I feel for the most part there is great sportsmanship in Division III, and I think that our expectation of the young men in our program is to respect the game of football. I've told this story to our team before, and when I first started out as a head coach, you're trying to instill a philosophy of being tough and being physical, because I think that's respecting the game too, playing it the right way, which is tough and physical and hitting people. But at the same time, you have to keep your poise, and you have to control your emotions so that you're not cheap-shotting anyone or getting a 15-yard penalty, and certainly that's not the way to respect the game. To me, that's a sign of weakness for people doing that. And in the early years when I was a head coach, again, we preached playing physical and playing with toughness, but our players really struggled with that concept because then they were getting 15-yard penalties and not showing great sportsmanship, and it really weighed on my conscience. And I remember coming into one season. I've told the story before. I didn't like being a head football coach my first couple of years. I wasn't very good at it, and we weren't very successful, and I didn't like it. And part of the reason was because of how we played the game. And I went in after that and said, if I'm going to do this long term, I need to make myself happy, and I need to have a team that I can be proud of. So we talked a lot about respecting the game of football and respecting your opponents. So we certainly have high expectations of the young men in our program, that they respect the game by playing tough and physical, but also being poised. And we have had too many personal fouls for my liking thus far, and that's something that we need to get better at. I think we will, but I do believe overall at the Division III level there is very good sportsmanship, and I think you see it after the games with people congratulating one another in a very honest and sincere way. So I do think Division III is special in that regard, because it is truly for the game, and people love to compete.
Our next question is, you sounded like you were concerned last week about the distance you had to travel to get to Illinois College. Did you feel that played any part in them being able to come back in the game?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, it's a long road trip, and on road trips you're on a bus for 3-4 straight hours before you can get up and move around, and your legs tighten up, and you're not sleeping in your own bed, and you're relying on a hotel breakfast and that type of thing. And oftentimes what we've noticed over the years is I think your hydration is not as positive. You get a little bit dehydrated on the road, so we try to focus on staying hydrated as well. So I think all those factors can put their bodies in places where they might not be hitting their peak performance, and that might have been a part of Illinois College coming back on us. It also might have been a part of them making some good plays. They're a pretty talented team, and they caught us in a few things, and we didn't execute very well a couple of times with certain coverages, and it led to big plays for them. So I think it's more of how they were able to come back is more of us giving up some big plays and allowing some big plays, but that might have been part of it too, being on the road and especially a long travel game. I know that we were certainly very tired, and I think it lagged into the Grinnell week after that trip. I like to think we're fully recovered now, but we're back on the road now to Ripon. So hopefully we'll come out and be well hydrated and well fed and be rested and play our best against Ripon on Saturday.
Next up is Paul from Chicago. He says Monmouth beat Wartburg this season. They look really good.
True. They do look really good. I mean, shoot, for forever it seems what I've known about the Midwest Conference is it's been St. Norbert and Monmouth kind of leading the conference and going to the national playoffs. And I know Monmouth had a great quarterback, 5-6 years ago, whatever it was, who had tryouts in the NFL and maybe even made it for a little bit with somebody, I thought. So watching them on film, which we have, they're extremely talented. They've got size, they've got speed, they're physical, they've got depth. They are a great team, which is why I think they were picked by many coaches in the league to win the conference, and certainly I would not be surprised with them making a run at it. They're very talented, so I'm not shocked by it. Not surprised in the least that they beat Wartburg. Obviously, it's a very good win beating a team out of the Iowa Conference, but I'm not shocked at all. I mean, I believe Monmouth has the talent to compete with a lot of really strong teams.
Am I right that you don't play them this season?
We do not. We do not play Monmouth or Knox this year. It's the two teams that, with the scheduling how it went with Carroll leaving the conference, that we miss in conference play this year.
And our last part for today, why is it great to be a Fighting Scot?
It's great to be a Fighting Scot because we're on a little bit of a roll here, winning 2 conference games in a row, and we've got a big game this weekend against Ripon. Again, Ripon has given us a lot of problems in our 2 years. We were fortunate to win down there in 2014, played a really good game against them where a lot of things went our way. We made a lot of big plays at crucial times, and we're fortunate to get out of there with a pretty hard-fought, close victory, and they're very talented. They're well coached. They know their schemes are hard to defend. They know what they're doing, and they put a lot of stress on you in that regard. So it's a big challenge for us. But like I said before, with any great challenge is a great opportunity, and we're certainly excited for that opportunity.
Thanks for joining us this week, Coach.
Appreciate it, Rob. Take care.
So welcome back to the Scots Game. We have Jacob Jones with us this week. Jacob, big victory this last week against Grinnell. Tell us some keys you thought from your standpoint.
I thought we performed very well offensively once we started rolling, and then the defense played phenomenally, shut them out, and we were able to get a bit of a lead and let some of the younger guys play. And I thought that was really important and valuable to them.
Tell us a little bit about the running game. Had a fairly good game against Grinnell. What were some keys that you were seeing that were going on for you guys?
The offensive line played great. They got good push. They allowed us to run the ball pretty effectively, and Jeremy made some great plays, phenomenal plays, and he was able to break a couple runs. He kind of headed us in that front on Saturday.
Against Illinois College, you had the big game there a couple weeks ago, I believe. What was going on in that game that allowed you to kind of get some momentum going?
Yeah. Again, offensive line, I was able to. They had a push, and I was able to get some room and make plays when I could, and that was definitely the factor in the game that was most, I guess, influential as far as run game goes.
This has been an interesting season at Macalester for me personally because I watched, the last couple of years where it was a very running attack oriented team, and you guys are throwing a lot more this season. As a running back, is that exciting for you from that kind of offensive scheme?
Yeah, it can be. I mean, we've been able to get our backs in the passing game, and Cody has stepped up and played phenomenal. He had very big games against both Illinois College and Grinnell, and it's hard to complain when you're putting up points like we've been putting up the last 2 games. So I think it's exciting.
This week you guys take on Ripon, who has quite a different kind of offense than what most of your teams, the teams you've seen this season. What kind of pressure does that put on the offense for you guys because of the offense they run?
I think regardless of what they run, we're just gonna do what we do. We're gonna, I guess, whatever Coach Davies' game plan is for the day is what we'll do, and we'll do our job. And I know the defense will take care of theirs.
How are you feeling about the team so far this season?
Great, phenomenal. I think the chemistry is very good. I think we're playing well, and I think we're just getting better every week.
For those who don't really know Jacob Jones very well, tell us a little bit about why you decided to come to Macalester.
Coming out of high school, it was important for me to go to a school with high academic standards, and Macalester's provided that along with the chemistry and the football program that I most envisioned myself being at, and it was an easy choice once I made my final visits.
And what's something about Jacob Jones that maybe somebody doesn't know, but it'd be kind of interesting to learn about?
I guess if you don't know me too directly, my spirituality plays a big part in my life, and it's something that's very important to me and something I live by. And I guess that's probably one of the more influential things that people who don't know me directly might not know.
Now, you also came from Alabama to come up here to school. Tell us the first day that you saw that the temperature was at 0.
I freaked out a little bit. I wasn't enthused by no means. I didn't know quite what I was getting myself into, but I adapted. I wasn't the only guy who was from a warm climate place, but I adapted, and I don't look forward to it, but it is what it is, and I make the most of it.
Tell us why it's great to be a Fighting Scot.
Oh, the team. Being a part of the team is one of the best decisions I've ever made. This is chemistry, and the brotherhood we have on the team is something that I will hold valuable for the rest of my life.
Great. Thanks for joining us this week, Jacob.
Yes, sir.
We want to thank Coach Jennison for joining us on the Scots Scheme this week. If you have your own questions you'd like to ask the Macalester coach, please send them to us at TonyJennison@minorleaguesportsupport.com. That's TonyJennison@minorleaguesportsupport.com. Please have your questions to us by Wednesday evening so we can give the coach a little time to review them before we record the show. I'm Rob Pannier, the managing editor of the Minor League Sports Report. Thanking you for joining us, and we'll see